Welcome to Dave Talks Ball in this December 10th, 2024 episode, folks. We're going to get right into it. This episode probably won't be as long. Again, we don't have a bunch of games to review. You've seen our Sunday Fun Day. You've seen our college football playoff reaction. I'm not going to go in depth about the SEC championship game. You've heard all that. I don't want to waste any of your time. You've heard my opinions on that. But we're going to get into really what's not going on right now, folks. You got playoff preparations. You got bowl preparations. The portal is pure chaos right now. College basketball has about another week and a half left in its prime non-conference season before we get into January and its conference slate, which for the SEC is going to be phenomenal because right now, folks, let this sink in. There is not a single bad loss on the road this year in the SEC as we stand right now. There's not a single battle. Every road loss in this league is a current quad one loss. I think South Carolina, we're going to get out my SEC basketball power rankings out tomorrow on SEC Unfiltered. You know how we do. But South Carolina's going to finish last. It's not going to be a surprise. But I don't think South Carolina's not a good team. But I would say South Carolina's a really bad team. They're going to come in 16th. This is a 10 to 11 bid conference right now. Maybe even 12. Also have David Harris from Hoops Southbound. They do a phenomenal job over there covering the SEC in basketball as well. Communicate, do some stuff with them pretty regularly. They're going to join us to talk some college basketball, SEC basketball as well. But how about first? Mike Shula getting hired as the OC at South Carolina. I know a lot of people, even South Carolina fans, don't really like it. I actually like the hire. I think it's a pretty good hire, if I'm being completely honest with you. I mean, he was with Carolina when Cam Newton was at his best. I'm not saying he turned Cam Newton into what he is today. I'm not saying that at all. It's just Mike Shula is a very good offensive mind. Even in his days when he's the head coach at Alabama, which is a totally different sport at that time, he had productive offenses at times. He developed John Parker Wilson, Brody Kroll. John Parker Wilson, I think, had his best year under Mike Shula in that last year before the 07-08 years with obviously Nick Saban and Jim McElwain. I like it. I think Lenore Sellers is going to get better because Mike Shula is a quarterback developer, guys. That's what he does. That's what he does best. That's what he does best across the board. So I see a lot of people out there being like, oh, this is boring. I think it's because they don't know. And again, this is all because Dow Loggins left to go be the head coach at App State. But I think a lot of people just don't really understand. This guy is he comes from a football background. Obviously, Don Shula is his father. This is a really good hire, I think. Lenore Sellers should be extremely excited. I know some people wanted Brendan Marion. I think he'd have been a little too much personality-wise there. You need one voice in the program. Shane Beamer is that guy right now. Brendan Marion would be a little much, I think, right now. He'd be a little much for me right now in that mold. But let's get right to the transfer portal. Let me share the screen. Let's get right to it. The top transfer portal conversations right now. Make sure we're sharing this right. Yep. All right, guys. Obviously, it opened up on Monday. Again, I always say it, if you're not pre-portaling, you're not portaling. I mean, you talk to any college football program I do on a daily basis, pre-portal grades are out and about right now. The portal doesn't stop. You talk to anybody, they're juggling two phones. Hey, I'm getting a call from this agent. He's wanting this much. He's saying this kid wants it. I'll tell you the name in a minute. Wanted 800 grand, but we're probably going to get into that million range. Are y'all wanting to play ball? No, you go separate ways. All right, get on the phone with somebody else. You don't know what these agents and these families are saying, if they're true or not, from a perspective of what's the best way to explain it? Probably just from a perspective of like there's no guidelines, there's no database to see if these numbers are right. Again, in the NFL, there's a salary cap here. Now to be fair, most receivers go from anywhere from 700,000 to about 1.1 million. From talking to people, again, Dave Shoemake, your host of Dave Talks Ball. If you're a longtime listener, you know I've worked in college football for 9-10 years roughly. Got started as a student assistant in Alabama, worked at multiple SEC schools. So that's my background, really. I'm also the college basketball analyst here as well. But really specifically here, have really good connections, boots on the ground in the college football world. That's really where I make my money. And just talking to these people, it's hard to stay afloat. Keep your head above water. You're treading water like nobody's business. But here's some big names to the portal now. Eric Singleton, the wide receiver, is the number one rated kid on 247 Sports right now. Cooper Patagno, we had last Thursday, is over this, so I trust his evaluations. Former personnel guy as well. He worked with Mario Cristobal at Oregon, worked at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh, myself at Alabama. From Georgia Tech, he's a big-time get. Somebody's going to get a real big-time player. You got Georgia will be involved in this, Alabama, Texas A&M, Auburn, you name it. Luke Cromahawk, the quarterback from Florida State's in it. Again, I don't know how good the quarterback class is going to be in this one. I don't. We'll get Jackson Arnold's name will come up a little bit. Remember the Oklahoma transfer. He's going to be visiting Auburn, as well as Malik Murphy from Duke. Just grouping these quarterbacks in together for Auburn right here. Princewell Umamelean looks like he's going to get Ole Miss from Nebraska. That's Princely's brother. Patrick Kudus. Again, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Arkansas Razorbacks and what's going on in that program right now here in just a minute. Actually, you know what? Let's do it right now. Why not? Let's bring it up right now. I'm bringing up the banner, actually. Trouble on the Hill. Why not? Let's talk about it. Here's what's going on in Arkansas, folks. They're not really willing to spend money. Again, you got Dave Van Horn in baseball, who's earned everything he's got. He's essentially turned that program around. I mean, I think he started being that coach in Arkansas, the baseball coach, when I was like in middle school, and I'm 35. So you do the math there. Obviously, John Calipari wants his share as well. But here's the issue. Football isn't getting allocated the right numbers. They also don't get the right salary cap in the support staff roles for their full-time employees. They're towards the bottom. Vanderbilt pays their staff more. Arkansas is not investing money in football right now, folks. My point being, Luke Haas, the tight end who left, Patrick Kudus, they all were making probably around anywhere from $300 to $400,000, went in and asked for double, and Sam Pittman's telling them no because he didn't think their production was worth it. Now, I don't think he's wrong. I don't. Like Luke Haas wanted $600, and he wanted his brother, a walk-on, to get about $50,000 as well. $300 to $600 off that production when he's been banged up a lot the last 2 years. I mean, the game everybody remembers from Luke Haas, sorry, I was saying Haas. Luke Haas was the LSU game 2 years ago in Baton Rouge, and then he got hurt in that game, and he was out for the year. He's been banged up. He goes in and asks for double. That just doesn't make sense. And he called their bluff, and he's in the portal, and he's taking an official visit to Alabama because Alabama's been losing portal kids. So again, like, you're not willing to pay it, but you're going to lose. That's why Arkansas is losing so many players. Like, these kids are coming in and asking for double money, double what they're worth or what their production, or double what they're making this past year. And the production level isn't there, folks. It's just not there. So I don't blame Sam Pittman for saying no, but you're also bleeding out, for lack of a better term. Sorry if that's too gruesome, but it is what it is right now. And that's why I say trouble on the hill in Fayetteville right now. And I'm hearing the revenue sharing is coming in. Every team at most can work with $20 million. Not every team's going to work at that because not every team can operate with that much money. For example, I talked to UCF a lot. That's a Big 12 school. Just got to the Big 12. They're only probably going to be working with about a $10, $11 million revenue sharing. Most SEC schools are going to be at 20. Most SEC schools are going to give about $15 million to football, and then whatever percentage they got to give for Title IX to women's sports. And then obviously men's basketball will get its fair share as well, but divided between that 5%. Arkansas is only going to give, I think they're only going to allocate $13 million to football. That's $2 million. It's a $2 million difference compared to their other SEC brethren. That's a lot. And Arkansas's collective is going to be gone. Again, you want to get better. Could you do better than Sam Pittman? Yes and yes. Check one, check two. Both things can be true at once, but you also have to be willing to invest in football too. Now, I don't know if that comes if Sam Pittman ultimately retires or just whatever happens next year, they don't win enough games and they part ways. Maybe a bigger hire would get people excited. I mean, we know Arkansas has money, guys. J.B. Hunt, Walmart, Tyson. They just have to want to spend it on football. We know Tyson's involved in baseball or basketball with John Calipari. We know Dave Van Horn pays his Arkansas baseball team a very pretty penny. They're at the top of the SEC pecking order in baseball, which is great. He started that program. He has every right to do that. And they should give him some money. But if you want to go win in football and not just be a perennial 5 to 7 win team, you got to go spend money to make money. Again, this isn't just an NIL thing. Their support staff is like the second to last lowest paid support staff in the conference, if not the last. It's hard to go hire good people. You have to go invest in football, folks. You do, and that's where Arkansas is struggling right now. Is Sam Pittman leaving a little meat on the bone? Absolutely. But are you giving him the most to work with as well? No. Two things can be true at once. I think both these things have to come together. And I think ultimately for Arkansas, for them to really get it going, They're going to have to go generate an exciting hire. I hate this for Sam Pittman. I know people in that staff. They're going to be an exciting hire to get them to go invest in that money. I'm just saying, from stuff I've heard in the last few days, it's not good over there. That's why a lot of guys are hitting the portal, because they're going in asking for their double their worth, which I agree. Tell them no. If the production, I like Luke has. I think he's a really good player, but the production level hadn't been there for 2 years to go get you a double amount of your raise, go from 300 to 600. And I know that's the numbers from talking to people. It is what it is. But you got to start investing money, guys. You can't keep taking away from it. I hear their collective's going to go away. What is it, the Edge? Or it's something like that. But, man, just disappointed in that. But let's go back to the portal. Sorry, I thought it was just good timing to bring that up. I wanted to do an own individual segment, but that was it. But I thought talking Patrick Kudus would be perfect. Dane Key, leaving from Kentucky. I don't blame him. I'm getting tired of having no quarterback. Him and Barry and Brown in the portal. I think one of them, myself and Cole Thompson talking today, will probably be at Ole Miss. Would that shock anybody? Wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me at all. Jaheim Otis, Nick Anderson. You see Nick Anderson coming there, the wide receiver, been banged up some this year, just like most Oklahoma's wide receivers. Jaheim Otis, the defensive tackle from Alabama. He entered a couple of weeks, I think, after the Vanderbilt game. So he's been in for a bit. He is from Mississippi, right outside Hattiesburg, if you're familiar with the Mississippi geography. Probably a lot of you aren't. But he's going to go to Ole Miss. That makes sense. Casey Concepcion, the kind of do-it-all gadget, can line him up in the backfield, play inside, outside receiver from NC State, potentially going to go to Alabama, was an all-freshman ACC guy. I feel like Alabama, A&M are kind of two teams. I like Alabama right now. And if Alabama gets him, that would be 4 good weapons they have coming back next year. Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Casey Concepcion, and then Cole Adams is even supposed to be back. Big-time edge guy, Williams Wanwari from Missouri. Edge guy, 6'7", 255, long. Scratch his knees standing up, folks. That's how long this kid is. Where he'll go, still haven't heard definitively on that one. Micah Hudson's a kid from Texas Tech that could end up in the SEC. I mentioned Malik Murphy. Right now, I would probably say either Ole Miss or Miami for me. Maybe, again, me and Cole talked about it. Maybe USC goes back home and Miller Moss entering the portal back closer out west. But Miami with Cam Ward is where I would lean right now. And, again, everything's fluid. Things can change, folks. But that's where I would think right now. Again, would you want to go compete with Austin Simmons, who I think in limited playing time has looked pretty good this year? Remember, I think he kind of kept the car on the road a little bit when Jackson Dart got hurt against Ole Miss, and then he came in. They went down and scored. Very impressive driver. He's on the baseball team as well, so he won't be with the football program in the spring. Maybe that's why Lane Kiffin would be interested in going to get Malik Murphy. Remember, 2 years ago they brought in Spencer Sanders from Oklahoma State, and I think they were trying to get him to beat out Jackson Dart. Didn't work out. Dart improved. Ole Miss would feel really good if they had Austin Simmons and Malik Murphy in the portal. I mentioned Barry and Brown. I think he'll be one of the guys at Ole Miss too. Hey, if you're going to be in the portal, guys, the thing to be a defensive tackle, folks. A defensive tackle. Bear Alexander probably about to be on his 7th school going back to high school. Been to 4 different high schools, 4 different years in high school. Been at USC, Georgia, trying to go back to Georgia, leaving SC again. Guys, they don't make guys as athletic at 6'3", 315 like they do Bear Alexander and some other guys that'll be entering the portal as well from the defensive tackle spot. They just don't make those guys. I mean, they just don't. Keyshawn, I was pulling it down too here at 29. Keyshawn Silver, same. These guys aren't great players, guys. Remember, I grade off my grading scale that we used to do. Got it from Georgia. It was rare was the best. That's obviously speaks for itself. A rare player. Then it was all conference or all league, whatever the hell you wanted to call it. That was our other one. That was a guy that's going to be a standout player for you throughout the league. You understand, like a Tate Ratledge would be who kind of stands out there. Then it's a winnable plus. You're going to be winning because of this guy. Then you got a winnable guy that you can win with, and then you got a winnable minus. He's got to be surrounded by other players. And then there's just a not good enough, like what not our kind of guy would be kind of the last guy, depending what school you're at. It all depended differently. See, these guys to me are kind of winnable minus guys. Bear Alexander, Keyshawn Silver, who's sitting behind Deion Walker, but they're both big athletic guys that defensive tackles just don't grow on trees. It's why they're offered so much money. It's why Walter Nolan got over $1 million last year to go to Ole Miss. There's not going to be a Walter Nolan. At least right now, there's not a Walter Nolan in that defensive tackle spot in the position. And I think it's fair. These teams are going to evaluate, man, Bear Alexander, when things get hard, he just leaves, right, wrong, or indifferent. He's a track record. 7 different schools going back to his high school days as we stand right now on December 10th, 2024. That's a lot. It is something to be concerned about. there's going to be a market for him because guys with his ability, people are going to go try to tap in on that. And they know interior defensive tackles, it's hard to scheme against, guys. You can scheme against an edge rusher. You can't scheme against a dynamic interior threat, a guy like Walter Nolan. You can't do that because you're going to try to double him, and that opens up other lanes for somebody. You can just go add a tight end or running back on the outside. And again, elite edge rushers are different, but just your casual edge rusher, no. You talk to any quarterback, they would much rather play an edge rusher where they can just step up into the pocket and you figure out some designs, in your game plan to scheme around him. If it's an interior defensive tackle, it's just whipping your other guy's ass across the board. It's hard to defend that, almost impossible to game plan around that, in my opinion. So from that perspective, Keyshawn Silver, again, not a lot of great defensive tackles. I've watched them all. They're not great. Again, I would say from going back to my grading scale, winnable minus. You're going to have to surround them with other guys. But they're going to get paid, guys. They're going to get around the $900 million range, if I'm being honest, from talking to people. CJ Daniels, receiver from LSU. He's an exact guy that I talked to, one of his agents. They're looking around and saying, hey, we want at least 800, but we're trying to get in that million range. And I think people are kind of laughing at him a little bit, kind of like, your production at LSU, I understand Garrett Nussmeier was a little inconsistent, but dude, it doesn't allow that. But watch, somebody's going to pay it. If they're desperate for a wide receiver, it's going to happen. It's inevitably going to happen. They're just kind of pushing up the ante. Hey, 800 is kind of the cover to get into the bar. By the time you get in, you'll be paying $1 million, like Bama may be paying for KC Concepcion over there. Keep going through any other guys. Tulane quarterback Darian Mensah. Kind of just hate that really from the bowl game against Florida. That would have been a good bowl game, but he's in the portal. A lot of people, I know a lot of personnel people are real fired up about him. Everybody likes him. It'll be interesting to see his transition up a level. We talked about Jackson Arnold. Looked like he was going to go reunite with Jeff Lebby in Starkville. Heard Michael Van Buren maybe to LSU, but now you're seeing Jackson Arnold go OV at Auburn. So it doesn't look like it's a finished deal in Starkville yet. And then Blake Shapen said he's coming back. It's the medical. I mean, obviously Mississippi State's not going to have Blake Shapen, Jackson Arnold, and Michael Van Buren. One guaranteed, if at least not two, will be going to do separate things, will not be in Start Vegas next year. Deshaun Womack has a lot of ability, edge rusher from LSU. He'll be in. Jakeem Jackson will be in. Kendrick Law, one of the best blocking wide receivers in the country. He has a role. Somebody's going to go pay him $700,000, $800,000. You best believe it. Maybe one of these Texas teams, because that's where he's from. Wouldn't shock me from that perspective. I like Kendrick Law. I don't know about the internal stuff I hear about the locker room, but from a player, once he got hurt against Georgia in that first half, Bama's offense kind of went down in that game. But Kendrick Law is like a little gadget guy. You could line him up all over the place too. Caden Salter, people, the Liberty quarterback, have connected him to Hugh Freeze. Obviously, naturally, Liberty. I don't think that's going to happen though. That's really it right now, folks. It's really it. Keep an eye kind of on where these two receivers go. Eric Singleton from Georgia Tech. Keep an eye on our guy, KC Concepcion. We're Alabama, Texas A&M right now. I think Alabama. Malik Murphy just entering the portal today from Duke. I'm hearing Miami. Ole Miss wouldn't shock me. That would be, if you're an Ole Miss fan, you'd be ecstatic. Chances of you hitting on Austin Simmons, who's already on campus, but plays baseball. That's where Lane Kiffin may be like, if I'm going to have my starting quarterback rolling in 2025, I want him there for spring ball. Completely understand that. And we also saw Walker Howard is entered the portal, and he's going to Louisiana Lafayette. They'll always be Louisiana Lafayette to me. I can't just say Louisiana. And then, like I said, defensive tackles, hot commodity, folks. It doesn't matter how many schools they transfer to. Somebody is going to bite, and someone's going to go pay that probably $1 million for them. And there's no better time to be a defensive tackle in the sport of college football right now. But let's check the comments before we get to my guy. Yeah, Bill, I think you're right. Dane Key to South Carolina. I think one of the Kentucky wide receivers, Dane Key or Marion Brown, will be at Ole Miss. South Carolina also would not be shocking, too, because you're right. They got to add some weapons around the North Sellers. Remember, I like Mike Schulehauer, folks. But stop sharing the screen here. And let's go. Let's get over to my guy, David, who I think they do a phenomenal job across the board here. Let's move over to the old Hoops Southbound. David, hey, I hate to bother you this close. I know you hit me up with the sarcastic tweet today. You're like, in the middle of the Arkansas game?
I'm a big fan.
I
I was like, when you texted me the original time, I was like, right in the middle of the game, we're going to talk about basketball today?
Dude, it's why I moved it up today, too. I was like, because yesterday, usually my show's Monday and Thursday, and I just had some personal matter just with our son. So I had to push it up. I had to push it today, and I was like, God, dude, right in front of the Jimmy V Classic. So that's why I pushed it. I was like, I got to get him in and out, and then I'm reacting to it. But, guys, listen, No one does a better job covering the sport, obviously, than David Harris and Maddie do over at Hoops Southbound. Seriously, they do a phenomenal job. I think they should get more publicity than they get. They do phenomenal in-depth. The videos are put together like a professional segment. Seriously, dude, it looks really good. Go give them the follow at Hoops Southbound if you do not already, and go hit subscribe, like, tell them everything you like to hear from SEC basketball on YouTube. But David, what's going on, brother?
Yeah,
initial thoughts on the season so far.
The league is fantastic. That's my initial thoughts on the season. Man, back in August, me and Maddie got done wrapping up a show, and we were just sitting there talking back and forth because everything's football talk. Football in August, which it does. I'm a huge football fan. This is the SEC. I grew up in the South. But like we were sitting there talking. Your casual basketball fan who tunes in sometime early January, late December, has no clue right now how good this league is going to be this year. And I got to say, here at the first part of the season, it's better than we thought. We thought it was going to be good. It's insanely good to start the season. And right now, when we did the at the ACC or the SEC ACC Challenge, we were running like how we were doing against other power conferences, what the SEC's record was. At that point, it was 2-9 2-9. The Big 12 had only taken 2 wins against the SEC in the month of November. And then the SEC was 10-1 coming into the SEC ACC Challenge. Then they dominate the ACC 14-2 and what's supposed to be a perennial basketball league. And then a lot of the wins that were coming out of other power conferences were against the middle and lower tier teams in the SEC. It was shocking how well this conference has performed here in the early part of the season. We knew it was going to be good, but they're playing better than expected here in the early part of the year.
No, I agree. It's like you said, anybody said they thought the league would be as good as it is now would be lying, or you were just a massive homer. I mean, it's one of my later questions I wanted to ask you because we're going to have you on for about 15, 20 minutes. But, I mean, is it wild to say we get 12 right now, David? Ultimately, people got to start taking losses. And probably my real question to you, could you see a 7-11 conference record getting in?
I knew we were going to get into this today, but yeah, first off, is it possible to get 12 in? I definitely think it is. So there's a lot of factors at play here. Number one, the SEC invested, you were talking about football, NIL money and everything else. Basketball has had a lot of resources spent over the last couple of years, and it was an objective by Greg Sankey and the previous commissioners here in the SEC. When they founded the SEC network, they were like, we're going to have a lot of basketball on the SEC network. We have to deliver a good product. And so the SEC's invested, hired better coaches, brought in better players, done better in recruiting. And now we've seen it come to all the way to where it is right now, to where it's a great product to watch. And when it comes to the amount of teams that could come in, not only do we have the amount of teams where everybody in the conference is good and everybody is beating the teams that they need to beat right now to get into, to give themselves a chance come March. It's also with the Pac-12 dissolving this previous season, you're having spots open up that would previously go to Pac-12 teams. You had the automatic bid, and then that was normally a 3-4 bid league conference there. That's going to the Big 12 and the SEC and other conferences now. So the Big East previous record back, and I believe it was 2011, their record was 11 teams. The SEC very much could put 12, and it's possible right now. Have you seen South Carolina's schedule as it shapes up right now at this moment? There are in the 18 games in conference play, I believe there are 13 quad 1 opportunities, and the rest of them are like 5 quad 2 opportunities. There are no quad 3 right now. No quad 3 opportunities for any team out there. And that's for anybody who doesn't know the quadrant system. A quad 3 is, if you were to lose that game, it's kind of hurts you, but not great. There's going to be power conferences out there that have quad 3 games, 2 or 3 in the conference. The SEC right now is looking at pushing almost every game being quad 1, which is the best kind of win that you possibly can get on your resume for the NCAA tournament. So yeah, it's 100% possible.
Yeah, in Full Court Network, our guys over there, they're our buddies. They don't think 12 is going to get it. I think me and you made me bet. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of what I said is that conference play starts, people are going to start beating up on one another. But, David, who's like your surprise? Again, there's a couple of them, but I like to hear, who's your surprise team so far out of the 16? Who is somebody you're like for the pot? Hell, we can go negative too, but there's not a lot of negative to say about the league right now. But there's
no negative really to say at this point. But like the surprise team, I think we expected Kentucky to be good, but they're playing national championship level basketball right now. When you look at the numbers and everything that they're putting together, they're right there. They're getting good wins. They're starting to put together a resume. We thought this was going to be a really good team coming into the year. Maddie had them pick 5th in the conference. I think I had them pick 7th, and it was because of the depth. And I was thinking it might take a minute here with all these transfers to click. Just kind of a reminder for everybody, last year with teams that had I think it was 8 or more transfers coming into their team. None of those teams made the NCAA tournament last year. Kentucky took in a huge amount of transfers this year, and it's clicking here in the early part of the season. And they showed that they can beat talented teams like Duke in the Champions Classic. And then they showed they can fight on the road, but they really showed that they can come back and win against Gonzaga there in that game. And it was one of their largest comebacks when they've been down at halftime. I was wrong on my show earlier this week. We got some bad information. There was a 31-point comeback that Kentucky had, but this 16-point comeback they had against Gonzaga, very, very impressive, especially when you consider they were playing in Seattle. They were in Seattle. That's basically a road game in that one.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, you think about it right now. What's the league's worst loss right now in conference play? Probably said the North Florida loss by South Carolina, maybe?
That's it. That's the only bad one. That is the only bad one. And South Carolina is going to have opportunities to kind of cancel that game out, especially as we get into conference play. So as long as they can pick up a quad 1 or North Florida plays better and they pick up a couple of quad 2s, they can cancel that one out and still keep themselves alive.
I want to ask you, because we have a pretty good Texas fan base here. I think that I appreciate them listening. I think they just want to find new SEC content to listen to. So we have a decent amount of listening. What's your thoughts on them?
Gosh, the team or them?
Shoot, really, just the team. It just feels like Tremont Martin coming back. Tell me, I know I'm asking the question, but it's just like outside of Trey Johnson, are they going to be able to find that consistent scoring threat in that backcourt all year?
Yeah, first off, it's a joke, Texas fans. I grew up in Arkansas. My brothers are both Texas fans. So there's a lot of back and forth in my family, especially, having family down in the Texas area as well. But I honestly think the backcourt for Texas can come together. Jordan Pope was really good at Oregon State. He's a great passer. He can shoot. I mean, they brought in guys. They had 4 guys who shot over 40% from 3 last season. This team's going to have an opportunity to find a rhythm. We knew Trey Johnson was going to come into this team and he was going to be a featured scorer. Tremont Mark last year was one of the top 10 scorers in the SEC. Now him having an injury early in the year kind of, derails things a little bit. But once he gets going and once he gets back into the shape that he wants to be in, playing ball, gets comfortable with the team, I think Texas can get really going. My big concern, though, with Texas is not really with their backcourt. It's the front court is what concerns me. Arthur Kaluma, really good player. Shedrick, I know he had a little bit of an injury concern. I don't know what's exactly there. I haven't kept up with it yet, but I'm going to find out before we do our next Texas preview. But he's dealing with some injury stuff right now as well. The depth past that, I don't know if it's there. And that's my big concern with Texas. We saw Syracuse during the Legends Classic attack directly going to that front court, getting the ball into Eddie Lampkin's hands. And the moment that Texas didn't have one of their centers out there or one of their big forwards out there, it became a little shakier. And that's how we saw Syracuse cut that deficit so much there in New York. So that's my big concern. But I think the backcourt can be exceptional. And if you can raise the play of some of these depth players in the front court for Texas, that'll judge how high their ceiling is going to be this season.
Yeah, I agree. Even after Shedrick, and he's even a little inconsistent so far. You're right, just depth in that front court. You sold on Florida, even though they hadn't really played anybody, I guess, yet. Well, I mean, they play North Carolina here soon, but again, I just think they're better in Carolina. I mean, you sold on Florida?
I think they're good. I think they're a really good team, and to me, they look like a Sweet 16 team. We kind of ran through the Week 6 AP poll, which I know you mentioned we were going to talk about today. They're in there, and the national champion has come out of that poll for the last 20 years. Yeah. And so out of the top 12 they're a really, really good team, and they got guys who can shoot. You talk about Clayton, Richard, and then Martin's a really good player as well, and he's offensively good. He's one of the top 3 scorers on this team right now, and he's defensively really good around the perimeter. I like what Florida has, and I'm really excited to see how much more Alex Condon's game can raise. I love Alex Condon. He was my sophomore breakout player of the year. I'm sold on Florida being a top 6 team in the SEC. If you sold that to me right now, I'd buy it. because I think that's good stock to have. And the top 6 of the SEC this year would be like top 4 any other year when we talk about the depth of this league. So for me, Florida looks like a team that can make a run to the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. They got some things that they need to address to be a little bit more consistent in shooting, a little bit better defensively, but Florida's there. Florida's a really, really good team.
David, right here, I'm asking you. We're real fired up about the league. I know we both are. But as we speak today, December 10th, we got one, right? Most teams probably got another big 1 or 2 non-conference games left before we get into January and it's conference play.
Yep.
How many true national title contenders as we speak today? Again, injuries may happen. Who knows? We go into this, but as we speak today, in David Harris's opinion, how many true national titles and national title contenders and who are they from the SEC right now?
The two that look the best. Now, I haven't ran the numbers through our model yet, but the two that look the best so far are Auburn and Tennessee. You've got Tennessee beating everybody by double digits. They did it again tonight against Miami. They're shooting over 36% from 3, which most national champions are. They've got a top 40 defense in KenPom. A lot of these guys have played together. They have chemistry together. The biggest concern coming into the season with Tennessee was how was the presence going to be at the 5 spot. But Felix Akpara has played great there in the center position. He's very good defensively. He's very aggressive, liking what I'm seeing. And then Igor Milicic. I mean, having a 6'10" guy who can step out and shoot a 3
he sets their ceiling to me. Am I wrong in thinking that?
Do what now?
He sets the ceiling to me for them. How he performs kind of, I think, at least for me, changes how I view their ceiling for the entire season. Because I don't think you can just rely on Zakai Ziegler just to be your guy on offense every night in, night out.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Like Igor Milicic, the way that he plays tells you a lot of how Tennessee is going to play. He's a smart player too. If you watch this kid, he understands what's happening on the floor at all times. He understands what the other defense is doing. He understands where his role is on this team. And yeah, when he's having a good team or when he's having a good game, this team's really hard to beat. Tennessee's got a lot of things that are going positive for them. You mentioned Zakai Ziegler in there. For me, like having that consistency at point guard for Tennessee as well is something that's really helping get Rick Barnes' standard on the floor so far here in the early part of the season. Zakai knows exactly what's going on, and he's been really consistent throughout his years. But Chaz Lanier, he started coming around a couple of games ago, and he looks like, the whole thing that we were delivering there. Is he the next coming adult and connect, back-to-back years? I don't know. We all may need a pump.
He doesn't have to be, though.
He doesn't have to be, and he's a good scorer. He can put up buckets any night. He put up like another, 22 tonight? Great player.
Both teams shot in the first half of that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Miami's defense isn't the greatest ever. Yeah. So, Tennessee getting on a run there is not too surprising. But
David, you like Tennessee Saturday in Champaign?
Illinois is really good. I think Illinois, we didn't know exactly who they were going to be this year, missing Shannon, having some other with Coleman Hawkins going for that Illinois team. Beginning of the year, we were kind of like, I don't know who Illinois is going to be, but now watching them play ball, over the last couple of games, they look really good. That's going to be tough, and that might be Tennessee's first loss of the year. But if they go out there and win it, I mean, we're going to be talking about a great resume point for sure. And that brings me to the other team we were talking about, Auburn. Their resume right now is outstanding, making that run they did in Maui, having Janai Broome back for another season. He's been the most dominant big man in the sport, it seems, to start the season. Yeah. And then again, you have an old group of guys. A lot of these guys are upperclassmen, played together. Auburn didn't lose a lot to the transfer portal. Yeah, you got Trey Donaldson going out, and you got Aiden Holloway heading to Alabama, but like what they brought in with Tahad Pettiford is a great player who's a very good point guard that they needed. And then the rest of this team is just kind of already played together. They know what's going on. Chad Baker-Mazar has been very solid. So Auburn's a very good team with a great resume. Even their loss to Duke, they didn't look bad. They were in Cameron Indoor, for crying out loud. You can't hold that against them.
David, last question before we get you out of here again. Appreciate you joining us again, guys. David Harris from Hoops Southbound. Go give them the follow at Hoops Southbound. David, must win tonight for the Razorbacks?
I'm not going to call it a must win as much as a really you need it, because Arkansas is going to have their opportunities in the conference. We were just talking about all these opportunities you're going to have as a team. If you don't get your resume started in non-conference, you do put more pressure on that SEC schedule. That's why I'm kind of like, it's a need to win, not a must win, because the season's not over by any means if Arkansas doesn't win tonight. I am kind of scared about this game. I think when you look at it, Arkansas's health in the front court has been a little shaky here to start the season.
Yeah.
Jonas Adu hasn't played for weeks. We were talking about that on our show, and he's just now getting back into the rotation, getting back into basketball shape. He's only putting up like 3 points a night, but he can play much better. I mean, he was all SEC last year. And then Z's dealing with an ankle injury that he had coming out of practice. So we're going to see how healthy Arkansas is tonight. We're going to see, what that front court might be. But I really think the X factor here is I don't know how Michigan is going to handle a Duthero. That to me is going to be like the big thing for the Razorbacks. And then you got a lot of guys in this game that are coming back home. DJ Wagner from New Jersey. Same with Billy Richmond. Went there, Camden High School as well in New Jersey. And the Boogie Flans from the Bronx. This is his hometown there in New York. So that's really exciting for this game. But Michigan's going to be a tough game. They got a really good front court there with Danny Wolf and Vlad Golden. So they're going to be a tough team to deal with. And then Trey Donaldson, who we mentioned, transferred from Auburn, really good in the backcourt. And same with Roddy Gale. So it's a tough game tonight. It's not a must win, in my opinion, but it's a really, really would like it and need it kind of game for Arkansas.
David, I appreciate you taking the time, dude. I'm 5 minutes in to your Arkansas basketball viewing, and I'll be going live after this to recap the Jimmy V Classic. But, dude, I appreciate you joining, man. Thank you for coming on. Again, guys, David Harris from Hoops Southbound. Him and Maddie do a phenomenal job covering the SEC in basketball as well, brother.
Thank you for having me on tonight. I appreciate it.
No problem, brother. Have a good night.
You too.
Again, David Harris, Maddie do a really good job over there in college or Hoops Southbound. Go give them the follow. They do a lot of good in-depth college basketball all year round. I do like listening to their content. I highly encourage people to go do that as well. But let's get to the college football playoff predictions, guys. Let's get to the college football playoff predictions. Let me pull up just a quick graphic for you so we can get this thing rolling. Yep. Sorry. Pull it up. All right, here we go, folks. Let's share this puppy. All right, here we go, folks. We're going to break this one down. Can you see? Yeah, you got it right there. We're going to break this one down. All right, I'm going to give you my predictions here. I'm sure this will change as we start shooting the videos. We're going to wait to shoot these videos, but I'm going to give you my initial predictions tonight. So starting Notre Dame at Indiana, I just think Notre Dame's going to advance here at home. I think they're going to go play Georgia at the Sugar Bowl. I think that's the next one as well. I just think Notre Dame's defense, I like them in this game. I think Al Golden and them will do well in that one. Penn State, SMU. I think this game could be a little closer than people are anticipating. I think SMU's skill is going to shock some people, if I'm being completely honest. But Penn State at home, I mean, it's at noon, so that helps SMU. Again, I always call noon games or prime upsets for visiting teams. Give me Penn State, though. Just give me Penn State. I feel good about them winning that game. They'll go take on Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. Ohio State, Tennessee. This is the one we all saw the college football playoff reveal. We're moving to 12 teams. This was the one that we saw. That we were just like, man, the traditional SEC team going up north in December. What will this be? I looked it up. The high will be 34, I believe, that day. Low 22 at night. It's going to be cold. Let's don't act like it doesn't get cold in Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains as well. I mean, we've covered that. It's going to be cold for Ohio State too. It's why Ohio State doesn't play night games in November, folks. The Big Ten teams don't want to play at night either in this cold weather. Don't mistake it. I just think Ohio State wins. I think if this game was in Neyland, I'd probably go Tennessee. I just don't trust Josh Heupel right now. I don't trust Nico Iamaleava on the road right now. I trust Dylan Sampson. I trust this defense. 10 guys with 100-plus reps are not on the defensive line. I trust them. I don't trust the offense to go in against one of the better defenses they have played for the season. I just don't. Sorry. I don't. I hate saying that. We're an SEC channel, but I have Ohio State advancing there. Texas, Clemson. How is Texas going to get off the mat after a disappointing SEC championship loss? But they have to, because the hometown kid, Cade Klubnik, Westlake kid, is going to be coming into town looking for revenge. The Andrew Makuba game, Makuba Bowl, the safety at Texas, playing his old team at Clemson. I think Texas is a good matchup for Texas. I think the first two matchups are good for Texas. Good matchups here. I just don't see Clemson moving the ball a lot. SMU has better skill players than Clemson have. I've heard people who are close to Garrett Riley say that. Garrett Riley, Clemson's OC. He gets frustrated they don't go dabble in the portal because, as we all know, I mentioned it, the wide receiver transfer portal is overly saturated, folks. Clemson is a national enough brand to go get some big-time players to help a guy like Cade Klubnik. But they don't. They decide not to. I think it's going to hurt them this game. I just don't see them stretching the field, having much success against this really good Texas offense. So we're moving to it in the Sugar Bowl. Notre Dame, Georgia. I don't feel great about this one, but I'm going to go Georgia. I like Al Golden, the defensive coordinator, a lot. I worked for him at Miami. Really brilliant defensive mind. I think he could give some troubles, especially Gunnar Stockton, which I think let's roll when we're making these predictions. Gunnar Stockton is going to be the quarterback for Georgia. Let's just say that. I think that's fair to say. It looks like Carson Beck had like the Brock Purdy injury, the UCL that we all saw. He's going to be out, guys. He is. Let's call a spade a spade. I'll be shocked if he's playing. I think Georgia barely wins this one. 1980 national championship game rematch in New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl. This will be fun. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I don't think Riley Leonard and them, Notre Dame hasn't played a lot of great defenses. I don't think they're going to be able to stretch the field against Georgia. Key will be the start in this game. If Georgia got out to a quick 14, 17-0 lead, Notre Dame's not going to come back. Notre Dame's got to lead or be a score away in every moment of this game. I think they could be, though. I think Georgia wins, though. I do. I think Georgia wins this game. Next, we're going to go Penn State. Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl. I think Penn State, Boise State's not going to be able to stretch the field much once they stop Ashton Jeanty. I think Penn State's got a pretty good path, at least to the semifinals so far. Give me Penn State over Boise State. And I didn't really – I think, yeah, I agree with that. Initially, people are going to be like, Georgia, man. They got a pretty easy path. So I think it sets up on that side of the bracket. Georgia versus Penn State. Whether that be in the Sugar Bowl, or no, that would be in the one's in the Orange Bowl, and then the other is the Cotton Bowl. That's what it would be. So I think Georgia would be going to the Orange Bowl against Penn State. We'll come back to that game. Oregon, Ohio State. I'm going to go Oregon. They got holes. The defense is probably – I could see Oregon coming out firing on defense, though, in this playoff because they're going to be embarrassed about what Penn State did to them on the ground last week. That's not in Dan Lanning and them's DNA. I think Oregon beats Ohio State. Texas, Arizona State. Something tells me there's going to be a big upset. Something tells me there's going to be a big upset in this college football playoff. This is the one I'm circled because Texas has not really played two great back-to-back games yet. And I think you got to take the Florida game out because that was the third-string quarterback from Yale. Again, that wasn't DJ Lagway. So, again, Texas looked good offensively. And, again, that was a solid Florida defense. Not taking anything away from the offense that game. But the defense really wasn't tested against Florida that game. Can Texas put it back-to-back games together? I don't think they have to be great in either one to win. They just can't be bad. We can't have bad Quinn Ewers. I think they win because I think their defensive line has such a massive advantage against this Arizona State offensive line. I like what Levitt can do, the quarterback for Arizona State. I like what he can do. I like Kenny Dillingham's system. I just don't think they're going to have enough ass to kick ass to beat Texas, to be honest with you. I think Texas has got the best matchup advantage out of any team in these first two rounds there. So Texas, Oregon. Let's go over to Miami. Let's go Georgia, Penn State with a right to go to Atlanta for the national championship. You can make a case to me either way here. But I'm going to go with Georgia, dude. They've had the most challenging schedule, and they've just found ways to win, even with Gunnar Stockton coming out in the second half or Carson Beck getting hurt in the last play of the game. Give me Georgia. I don't feel confident in it, and I know people are like, you almost have them losing to Penn State. Penn State's defense is pretty good, folks, and Georgia has shown they have struggled against lesser teams than Penn State at a time. But Georgia just keeps overcoming adversity, and that means a lot to me. Kirby Smart and them are going to be prepared. James Franklin doesn't play well in big games. I got to give Georgia the nod until I see otherwise. Would it shock me if Penn State played in the national championship game? No, absolutely not. But I give Georgia the edge here. On the other side, Oregon, Texas. I don't think Texas can do it, guys. I could be wrong. Would be not the most shocking thing in the world. Honestly, wouldn't be shocked at all. But I have Oregon until otherwise. So not shocking. The 1-2 seeds. I have Oregon, Georgia. And I have Oregon winning it all. I think Dan Lanning gets his revenge in this game from his first game as the head man in Eugene in the same building. Remember, in 2022, his first game as the head coach, him and Bo Nix went to Atlanta. His first game as the head coach and just got walloped against Georgia. We all remember that. The 2022 national championship team in Georgia, Stetson Bennett, Todd Monken, and them were rolling. Remember that. It'd be funny. The former assistant getting revenge 2 years later in the same exact building. That'd be wild. I think that's kind of a national championship game we're all kind of hoping for, right? Good storylines, two good teams. I think they've been the best two teams all year, been the most consistent. But how many teams, my other question, can truly win the national championship? Not just go win a game or two, but win this whole thing. Put 3 to 4 games together. I'm going to tell you, I think Georgia could. I think Penn State could. I think Oregon could. I think Ohio State could. And I think Texas could. Early in the day, I would have told you 4. Talking to you in this moment right now, I would say 5. You may say, Dave, why did you change your mind? I'm telling you, Penn State, guys, if they're playing well, they could get the run game going like they did against Oregon on Saturday night in Indianapolis. I'm telling you, do not be surprised if they're in Atlanta and it's an all Big Ten national title. And this is coming from an SEC channel, guys. This is coming from a guy who grew up around the SEC. Went to an SEC school. I don't want to see that, but again, I'm objective. I'm going to call it like I see it. Wouldn't shock me if we had Big Ten. Would you be more shocked to see 2 Big Ten teams playing in the national championship or 2 SEC teams? I actually think right now maybe I would be a little more surprised if I saw Georgia, Texas for the 3rd time again, more so than I would if I was shocked to see Oregon, Penn State. And again, that's what it'd have to be because, as you see, the brackets have to be shaken out there. But no, I have Oregon over Georgia. I feel pretty good about Oregon winning the national championship. But I do think Ohio State could get hot if they get right. We obviously see Tennessee, Texas. And I think Georgia and Penn State. I want to with Tennessee. I can't trust Josh Heupel and Nico Eamon-Lovin. I mean, that's a tough draw too. Ohio State on the road at the Shoe. Then you play Oregon. Then you're probably playing Texas. But I'll say I think Texas, like I mentioned on the playoff reaction with Chris Phillips and Cole Thompson on Sunday, I think Texas got the best matchup draw in their first 2. Because that's all we can see right now. I can't see who their 3rd matchup would be. I think Clemson, I don't know how they're going to go stretch the field against them. Texas doesn't have to play that great offensively. And they'll be challenged because Peter Woods and them, that Clemson defensive front. I think Texas has such an advantage up front against Clemson. Don't trust Cade Klubnik either. And then in the second matchup against Arizona State, unless they just turn it over and give short fields. I like Cam Scattaboo. I like all that. I like Kenny Dillingham. I like what Sam Levitt can do. I think that is a game where Quinn Ewers and them would have a field day. I think they would just out-athlete Arizona State. So I think they have the easier matchup. A lot of people may say Georgia, but I think Notre Dame could give Georgia some hell. I really do, because I think Al Golden, the defense coordinator there, could really scheme them up well. And remember, the backup quarterback, can he go win 3 straight games? To be determined. I do think he gets to Atlanta for the national championship game with a shot against the former DC, but I think Dan Lanning and the boys will hoist that trophy to win the national championship. Let's go to some comments here. Austin Alford, appreciate you listening, brother. Looks like he's doing the Gamecock emoji. I like the Mike Shula hire, man. Today, South Carolina won. They've won the last back-to-back days. You had Kyle Kennard winning with the Nagurski. The Nagurski Award, best defensive player. Then you have Bill Carson over there saying UGA. He thinks they're going to win it. Bill Carson. How about Gunnar Stockton wins national championships over Ducks? I'm almost there, but I'm going to go with Dan Lanning. I think they're the better team all year, and that has the great makings to be a great movie. You're right. But something tells me there's going to be a big upset. What's the most likely upset? Y'all tell me in the comments. I would say, Tennessee over Ohio State is technically an upset in the 8-9 matchup. It's just Texas. Can they play 2 good games back-to-back? How are they going to get off the mat from the SEC championship game? I think they can easily. They probably will. But big-time first-round matchup. I don't see it Indiana, Notre Dame. I think SMU could cause this to be a better game than people are expecting, just because I think a lot of people don't think they deserve to get in. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a lot of people do think they deserve to get in. Conversation for another day. I feel like I've exhausted that on a lot of these conversation playoff talks I've mentioned. But let's talk about the actual playoffs, because we know what's going to happen. We're not going to talk about what ifs or hypotheticals anymore. But I still think Penn State. But again, Georgia over Oregon right now. But we'll be getting our previews and picks out with myself, Chris Phillips, and Cole Thompson across the board rolling with you as well, guys. But we got 726 of you listening live right now. Guys, go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. The race to 20,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel, SEC Unfiltered. We have a phenomenal group of content creators in this family right here from the SEC Unfiltered channel. All things football all year long, basketball, college baseball, all coming at you, folks. Go like, subscribe, get us to that 20,000. Let's get us to that 20,000 for the college football playoff, folks. I'll dance at your wedding, is the old folks say. But let's look at the rest of the bowls around the SEC. Just calling out for you. Friday, December 20th will kick us off here. We're going to the Gasparilla Bowl. I've actually been in that one before. Florida versus Tulane, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. With Mensa being out, it just doesn't feel as right, does it? It just doesn't feel as right across the board. Florida currently an 11-point favorite heading into that one. I like Florida, and I think Florida has some momentum to get with this. Go get your 8th win. That'd be a big deal, folks. That'd be a big deal. Saturday, December 21st, we obviously got the playoffs. Number 12, Clemson at number 5, the 5 seed Texas. 4 p.m. Eastern on TNT and Max. Again, I like Texas. I just like the matchup here across the board in that one. Number 9, Tennessee at Ohio State. This is the one that gets me fired up the most about college football. It really does, because when we thought about this 12-team matchup, I mentioned it. What will the SEC teams do when they go up north? What will they do? How will they ever survive the cold? It's like it never gets cold in Tennessee. How will they ever survive? Well, we'll see. We'll see. I think Ohio State's going to win, because I think there is such thing as a Josh Heupel struggles on the road thing right now. I do. And against the other good teams, and I get it. It's hard to win on the road. But right now, Ohio State is 7.5-point favorite in that one. And down in Austin, Texas is currently an 11-point favorite against the Clemson Tigers. Moving on to the other games. Friday, December 27th, the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl in Fort Worth. Oklahoma plays Navy. That line currently is Oklahoma favored by 8.5. That should be a pretty low-scoring game as well as that day, the Birmingham Bowl, which I'm excited about this. 2 academic institutions, both looking for their respective 7th win for Vanderbilt, 8th win for Georgia Tech. But like I mentioned, Vanderbilt versus Georgia Tech, 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Currently, that line would be Vandy getting 2.5. So Georgia Tech and Brent Key favor at 2.5. I think this is a great quarterback matchup. Haynes King, Diego Pavia, 2 just pure gamers going at it in Birmingham at Progressive Field. That'd be fun. That's one of the more underrated bowl games. I know people don't really like bowls. They get bored with them. I still like them. Football's on. I'm a football junkie. I'm going to watch. This one gets me fired up, if I'm being completely honest with you. Still on Friday, staying with you, the AutoZone Liberty in Memphis, Arkansas versus Texas Tech, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Currently, Arkansas, a 3-point favorite over Joey McGuire and the boys. This game just screams something wild's going to happen. Hell, we saw it 2 years ago when Arkansas was in this bowl game against Kansas. Kansas blew that lead and Arkansas won in overtime, if I remember right. This game screams something wild, doesn't it? It just does. Then we got the SRS Distribution Bowl in the Las Vegas Bowl. Sorry, Texas A&M versus USC, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. These have been Eastern time zone games. I'm sorry, folks. On ESPN. I think this is a big game for Mike Elko. I think there's a lot of storylines in this one. Who will be USC's quarterback? I think A&M needs to go put the cherry on top of Mike Elko's first season. I think they'll be hammering that home. Because you want to finish 9-4. You also don't want to lose to a team like USC in your first year with Lincoln Riley and them that feel like they're just declawed. Like, there's really no juice around this program right now. You should go handle this business. Go give them a losing record. I like the helmet game here. It's a big game for Texas. I've said it. I'm going to say it on Twitter again probably tonight. Mike Elko and Texas A&M probably need this bowl win more than anybody else in the non-CFP bowls. Somebody may argue South Carolina, which would be fair, but I think it's Mike Elko and them. The defensive mind of Mike Elko versus the offensive mind of Lincoln Riley, and me talking to Texas A&M. It was down to Memphis and Vegas, and man, we're talking to them on speakerphone. They're like, please send us to Vegas the way November ended. They got their wish. Monday, December 30th. Let me tell you how much. What's A&M favored by in this game? A&M currently a 2-point favorite. Moving to the next one, though, Music City Bowl in Nashville, Missouri against Iowa. Right now, Missouri is currently a 4-point favorite. I mean, Missouri, I know Armand Mimbo is going to be missing. Luther Burden's going to be missing. This will be back-to-back double-digit win seasons for them. 11 wins they got in the Cotton Bowl last year by beating Ohio State. You can go get 10 by beating Iowa. That's got to be motivation enough. I'd like to see Luther Burden and Armand Mimbo play. I understand why. But come on, this is the school you're leaving. Wouldn't you want to go get back-to-back double-digit win season? Maybe just me. But moving to the next one, Tuesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve, folks, ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa, the old Outback Bowl. Can't go be betting blooming onion shrimp anymore. But you do have a classic helmet game and a rematch from the college football playoff, the Rose Bowl last year, Alabama versus Michigan. 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. Alabama currently an 11-point favorite. Who knows who will be playing in this game, but it is a phenomenal helmet game there's not a lot to take. I mean, Kenneth Grant's going to be leaving, Mason Graham, the interior of the Michigan defensive line, Jalen Milroe. I don't know if he'll play. If I was a captain, I'm playing. I think it'll say a lot about Jalen Milroe if he'll play in this game or not. You got that C on your chest, I think you need to finish the season. It is what it is. People may have different opinions than me, but that's mine. Also on Tuesday, the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl in Orlando, South Carolina versus Illinois. South Carolina currently favored by 10.5 in this one. I think South Carolina is going to be what Missouri was last year. They're going to invest a lot in this bowl game. Mike Shula is just a plug and play. That'll be the first time you get to see him. Lenore Sellers against Luke Altmaier and Brett Bielema and the boys. I think South Carolina wants to go get this 10th win, and I don't blame them. They're playing. I think they're playing with the most juice going into these bowl games outside of the 3 CFP participants. I think Shaman Beamer and them get the job done. The Kinders Texas Bowl, Houston. LSU versus Baylor. Former DC at LSU, Dave Aranda and the boys have won 6 straight playing LSU and Brian Kelly. And Brian Kelly says, hey, everybody better buckle up. The Tigers are coming in 2025. You heard him. He said it. He said it. Current line, LSU favored by 2.5 in NRG. Normally, this game's like a random Wednesday night at like 9 p.m. Eastern. It happens to be on New Year's Eve at 2:30. So we're changing this one up a little bit. It feels like a December 28th game at like 9 p.m. Eastern most of the time. But I mean, LSU obviously needs this for momentum, but Baylor probably will come in a little bit more hungry. This game's a total toss-up to me. Then obviously we get into the college football playoffs, the Peach Bowl. Arizona State will play Texas or Clemson. The Rose Bowl, Oregon waiting to see if they play Ohio State, Tennessee, and the Sugar Bowl. Georgia's just sitting there in the wings waiting to see if they play Notre Dame or Indiana in the battle of the state of Indiana. And then Thursday, they're going back to the bowls, the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. Duke, without Malik Murphy now, brings this game a little less juiceless. Sorry, we can all spade versus Ole Miss, who I think is going to have a little bit more people than we anticipated. I don't think as many people are going to hit the portal as we thought. I think maybe Trey Amos plays in this game. Jackson Dart announced he's coming back, already establishing himself as an all-time great Rebel. Ole Miss should win this game, folks. Ole Miss should win this game. Currently, Ole Miss is a 12.5-point favorite. You better, if you want to bet on Ole Miss, I'd go hammer that right now, folks. That's my life advice to you. That's cheating right there. And you can thank me later when you're investing that money you went on that bet in your child's college fund, folks. But we got to go watch a little Arkansas, Michigan. David said it wasn't a must win. I feel like it's a need to have win at least for Arkansas heading into this one, folks. But again, guys, if I didn't say it earlier, and I don't think I did, this episode of Dave Talks Ball is brought to you by our buddies over at Roback. Go to roback.com and use code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. Guys, phenomenal logos, all your favorite teams' logos on all your winter gear. If you're looking for Christmas presents, our buddies at Roback are the best to go get. And if it's your first time, don't forget to use code SECU for 20% off and tell them your buddies over at SECU, SEC Unfiltered, sent you guys. Remember, guys, the goal, the race to 20,000 subscribers before the playoff games. Got till December 19th, 20th. Come on, guys. Go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you have not already, folks. Before we get out of here, got to get to the fans. Let's see what they're saying. Bill Carson, Clemson is a good team, but I think UT will beat them. I agree. Let's have an SEC sweep of bowls. And maybe like the SEC did in basketball against the ACC, 14-2 in that challenge. These players get paid now. Selfish not to play for the state of that paid. Yeah, agree. And a lot of these contracts for NIL, JMAC 11888, they have incentives. They don't get their monthly pay if they don't play in the bowl game. So that's going to help as well. And Bill Carson says, agreed, guys. But I appreciate you listening, guys. There's 780 of you in here. I appreciate you. Let's get all 780 of you over to YouTube, if not. Let's do it, guys. That's my challenge. I'm challenging you. I'm making you better today. Let's get to 20,000 before the college football playoffs, guys. But we covered a lot. Transfer portal. What's wrong with Arkansas right now? We got to start distributing funds to college football, guys, if you want to go win. Scared money don't make money. Got to spend money to make money, whatever you want to say. College basketball. We had our guest, David Harris, coming on from Hoops Southbound, talking all things SEC. Potentially the best college basketball conference in the last 20 years, going back to that 2011 Big East era where you had Jim Calhoun and Kimball Walker manning those Big East sidelines, Jim Boeheim, Syracuse. Come on. We're rivaling that. The SEC is doing something in basketball. Then I gave you my CFP predictions. Oregon over Georgia. I know we're an SEC channel, but I call a spade like it is. I call it like it is. Let's call a spade a spade. I think the Ducks and Dan Lanning get it done. And then we talked about the rest of the bowl games. I think A&M, I think they needed a little more. I think South Carolina is going to be that Missouri team this year. It's going to invest a lot and try to win this game to get their 10th win, and I don't blame them. And I'm fired up about the Mike Shula hire. Congratulations, Mike Shula, becoming the head OC. I think if anyone should be fired up today, it's Lenore Sellers. Great quarterback developer, guys. But for your host, Dave Shoemate, Can't wait to see you on Thursday, guys. You have a great rest of your week. Until Thursday, let's go.